Thanks for tuning in again to another share on this channel. Before I continue, I ask that you spend the time to like, share and subscribe to this channel. This will allow you to receive a notice whenever a new share has been posted on this channel. Also leave a comment, this also help my channel, much appreciated. Okay, so today I wrap up the topic tourism and the Caribbean. Today I share on the topic factors affecting the growth of the Caribbean tourist sector. I shared with you in a few video prior to this, that the Caribbean's #1 tourist market is that of North America. This include Canada and the United States. I also shared that tourism contribute a large percent of the region's economic development. Tourism fosters employment, increase the rate in which foreign exchange and provides the opportunity for the region to showcase its cultural heritage, fashion, music along with lifestyle. Sad to say, the Caribbean is noted for a few activities which to a great extent have impacted greatly the growth of the tourist sector. One of the #1 problem is that of lotto scamming. A lottery scam is a type of advance fee fraud which begins with an unexpected email notification, phone call, or mailing explaining that you have won a large sum of money in a lottery. How does this work? You get a call, email, or letter saying you won a sweepstakes, lottery, or prize, like an iPad, a new car, or something else. But you can tell it's a scam because of what they do next. They ask you to pay money or give them your account information to get the prize. If you pay, you'll lose your money and find out there is no prize. This is a lucrative activity in parts of the Caribbean like rural Jamaica. This have resulted in some tourists refusing to visit Jamaica fearing that their personal information is not safe and may be used to solicit monies from them in the future. In addition to lotto scamming, the high instances of crime throughout sections of the Caribbean has resulted in travel advisories being made to potential tourists to stay away from countries regarded as high-risk crime area. Countries like Trinidad, Haiti and Jamaica are high on the radar as it relates to high instances of crime and violence. Recently 17 missionaries were kidnapped by a gang in Haiti after they went to Haiti to help in a relief effort. In Trinidad and Tobago, high instances of kidnapping and shootings are also on the rise. Although so indulge in lotto scamming, criminals are still at odds with each other in Jamaica. These are just a few examples. In addition to the listed factors which have detracted tourists from visiting some countries throughout the Caribbean region, there is the problem of tourist harassment. Periodically tourists would visit ports throughout the Caribbean region, allowing passengers to spend time on land shopping at thrift stores, bathing at beaches and rivers and visiting craft shops. Sometimes, tourists do complain that they are being harassed by locals to look at their goods for sale and sometimes are cornered which makes them feel uncomfortable. As a result, some tourists have opted to not want to visit countries throughout the regions or visitations are so structured, tourist excursions are so guarded vendors are refused to come into contact with tourists. As a result vendors are unable to get sales from tourists passing through. Some are so aware of this issue they ensure that their stay in the islands is at an all-inclusive space limiting their interactions with the locals. In addition to the above-mentioned, natural disasters can render tourist destinations impossible to visit. Several eastern Caribbean islands are impacted by volcanic eruptions recently. These islands are so close together, an eruption may impact negative neighboring islands. The eruption of the volcano will aggravate the situation of the tourism-dependent economies of the Eastern Caribbean, given that its effects have spread to Barbados, St. Lucia and other neighboring islands. Agriculture in most of these countries has been negatively affected by the ashfall. Saba is the northernmost volcanic island in the active arc of the Lesser Antilles with an area of only 13 square kilometers and a population of around 1,200. It is rom-shaped and is a single volcano measuring 4.6 kilometers east to west and 4.0 kilometers north to south rising to a central peak of Mount Scenery at 887 meters. The island has a permanent population of around 1,100 but the presence of a medical college and tourists can double this number. The appearance of the island is that of a deceptively simple stratovolcano, But this is not the case, as it has been built up of a large number of Pleiadian domes with their aprons of coarse pyroclastic deposits that form a distinctive shoulder on the island at about 450 to 500 meters ASL. Mount Scenery is a younger cone perched somewhat eccentrically to the north on this foundation of Pleiadian domes. A prominent sector collapse scar exists on the southwestern flanks of the volcano in which the island's administrative capital sits. The upper part of this scar has been buried by the younger deposits of Mount Scenery and the lower part by the Pleiadian dome and pyroclastic aprons of Great, Bunkar, and Paris Hills. The submarine flanks of the island slope away uniformly in all directions, except the west, where about 1.3 kilometers offshore there is a single parasitic conical submarine Pleiadian dome rising from depths of 300 meters to only 23 meters below sea level. The island is essentially a complex of andesite Pleiadian domes with their aprons of block and ash flow deposits, together with a few domes that have produced short thick dome flows that are steeply inclined on the island slopes. From a suite of 96 samples, only 2 were basalt, and both came from the oldest volcanic center on the island at Torrens Point. Lavas of basaltic andesite composition are sparse, as are basaltic andesite pyroclastic deposits, resulting from St. Vincent-style activity. However, a prominent basaltic andesite lava flow dominates the northeast quadrant of the island, with the island airport built on its distal part. Dacite is present mainly as pumice and ash, which together with some andesite reflect Plinian-style activity. Also present in small amounts are semivesicular andesite pyroclastic deposits, resulting from a Sama-style activity. The stratigraphy of the island can be subdivided into 2 parts. The older parts of the island predate the sector collapse scar, and the younger deposits that postdate the scar and include Mount Scenery. The rocks of the island have proved too young to be dated by the KR method, as they are less than 1 million years old. Recently 339R/40R ages were determined for the older parts of the island and yielded ages of 0.42. 0.36 and a third sample that yielded 0.21 and 0.13 million years. The age of the sector collapse scar is estimated at around 100,000 years, and younger deposits have been dated by radiocarbon methods. Saba Island has erupted lavas of a single magma series which is medium K low Ca calcaline. The compositional ranges from 49% CO2 to 65% CO2, and the lavas are characterized by an abundance of rounded medium-grained hypoabyssal, dike rock, nodules that are more mafic than their host. Hot springs are present on the northwest and southeast coasts of the island and on the seafloor immediately offshore of these areas. Orange areas of discoloration are present on the flanks of the volcano, marking the sites of former fumarolic activity. On the northeast coast, immediately underlying the prominent basaltic andesite lava flow, is a layer of yellow sulfur mineralization that has been mined in the past. Geologic map of Saba, West Indies. The island appears to overlie a northeast to southwest fault zone as indicated by recent seismic activity and a distribution of hot springs along the longest axis of the island. The oldest dated rocks on Saba are around 400,000 years. Because there are no flank deposits rich in carbonized wood, pits were dug on the island to locate the youngest pyroclastic deposits. In a pit dug within the island capital of the bottom, the youngest pyroclastic deposit was found to be a thin ash surge with accretionary lapilli, dated at 280 years BP, that overlays Amerindian remains but underlies deposits containing European debris following European settlement on the island in AD 1640. European settlers may have been particularly attracted to the island by the presence of meadows of grassland instead of tropical rainforests. These meadows resulted from pyroclastic flow eruptions shortly before European arrival and before the rainforest had re-established itself. Between 1995 and 1997, an increase in the number of local earthquakes was associated with a 7 to 12 degree centigrade rise in temperature of the hot springs. The seismic activity that was felt on Saba is thought to represent a mild volcano-seismic crisis, with the increased heat flow resulting from either deeper circulation of groundwater or possibly renewed magma movement. The volcanoes of the northern Lesser Antilles are built upon broad platforms of submarine banks where Mesozoic volcanic and sedimentary rocks are capped by tertiary limestone layers. This platform is well known in the Saba Bank, 13.5 kilometers southwest of Saba, standing around 1,000 meters above the seafloor, measuring 70 kilometers east-west and 40 kilometers north-south, and with a minimum water depth of only 20 meters in the south and 40 meters in the north. It has been drilled for oil so that its stratigraphy, which includes Mesozoic rocks, is known. The presence of the underlying bank is indicated on Saba Island by the presence of a rare and exotic suite of crustal inclusions contained in the volcanic deposits. These include tertiary fossiliferous limestones, sheared plagiogranite, a biotite hornblende clinopyroxene adamellite, and hornfels. The presence of the rounded hypoabyssal nodules belonging to the same magma series as the volcanic rocks suggests the presence of composite dikes beneath the island. Also, the shape of the island, the distribution of hot springs, and the locations of recent seismic epicenters all suggest that the island is built on top of an east-northeast fault that cuts the underlying submarine banks. Magma is stored in this fault zone in the form of vertical sheets or dikes in which several magma compositions coexist. Dominica lies at the center of the Lesser Antilles Island arc, where the islands of the active arc, see Lesser Antilles arcs map on this website, are large and complex, comprising many coalesced stratovolcanoes. The island has an area of 750 square km and a population of 74,000, including 3,000 Carib Indians. Whereas all the other volcanic islands of the Lesser Antilles have only one active volcano, Dominica has 9, and yet there has been no major magmatic eruption since Columbus visited the island, and as a result it has today the best and most extensively preserved tropical rainforests. The youngest dated volcanic deposits on the island are associated with the Morne Patates Dome on the flanks of the large active Platpais volcano that comprises the southwestern end of the island. This was a Pleian eruption, similar to the eruptions of Mount Pelée on Martinique in 1902 and 1929, and radiocarbon ages from the block and ash deposits suggest it occurred about 500 years ago. In addition, there have been 2 steam explosions, phreatic activity, in the Valley of Desolation in 1880 and 1997. Frequent seismic swarms and vigorous and widespread geothermal activity today characterize the island. In fact, it is the most worrying of all the Caribbean volcanic areas, and there is a general feeling that it, like Montserrat pre-1995, is long overdue for an eruption. What is of particular concern is that the capital Roseau and most of the island's infrastructure lie on a pyroclastic flow fan derived from the Wadden-Waven caldera situated on the eastern outskirts of the capital. The pyroclastic deposits of the Roseau area abound with ignimbrites, pumiceous pyroclastic flows, surge and airfall deposits with radiocurrent ages ranging from 38,000 to 1,000 years. BP volcanologist Haroldur Sigurdsson as long ago as 1972 described one of the units which he called the Roseau Ash, and together with other workers traced its submarine extension. As a result of this work they concluded that about 38,000 years ago the island erupted around 56 cubic kilometers of pumiceous materials in what was described as the largest eruption in past 200,000 years in the Caribbean. Pyroclastic flows deposited about 30 cubic kilometers on the Caribbean floor, and the remainder was deposited on the Atlantic floor from anti-trade wind dispersal. More recent work suggests that there are several ignimbrite sheets separated by ancient soils, and the deposits may have resulted from several eruptions. However, all conclusions indicate that the capital Roseau is situated in one of the most hazardous areas of the island. The structure of the island is interesting, as north of Dominica the Lesser Antilles arc divides into 2. With the active arc line to the west in Basse Terre of Guadeloupe and the extinct limestone Caribe arc line to the east in Marie-Galante and Grande Terre of Guadeloupe. See Lesser Antilles arcs map on this website. On Dominica, Miocene rocks, 75.3 million years, of the extinct limestone Caribes occupy the east or windward coast, where deeply dissected volcanoes form rugged mountains. The main bulk of the island was built up by coalesced volcanoes during the Pliocene, 4.0–2.0 million years. During the Pleistocene within the central graben, two cauldrons have formed and occupy most of the floor of the graben. The Cherwapitan caldera is to the north and the Wadden-Waven caldera to the south. Following the eruption of pumiceous material from these cauldrons, the Cherwapitans and Mokitran centers formed. Both of these are Palean dome complexes with surrounding aprons of block and ash flow deposits, from Nui's Ardenti-type pyroclastic flows named by Alfred Lockroy when describing the 1902 eruption of Mount Pelée. Arcuate cliffs truncate the southwestern flanks of the Platpais stratovolcano and form the eastern margin of a depression now occupied by the Morne Patates and Crobier Palean dome complexes and their pyroclastic aprons. The villages of Soufriere and Scott's Head also lie within this structure. These are just two islands found in the eastern Caribbean in which volcanic eruption may occur at any point. It is hoped that you understand the impact of all listed and will be able to explain such in subsequent test or examination exercise.